Today we're going to check out Ghostbusters Frozen Empire on 4K UHD. I'm not here to talk about how good or bad the movie is, I'm just going to share some thoughts on the audio and video quality. Now let's go over a few tech specs. The movie was shot in 4.5K. I'm not sure if it's got a 2K DI or 4K DI, but it was shot in 4.5K like Afterlife, which had 2K DI, and this one looks very similar to that one. So, it might be 2K DI. It's rated PG-13, runtime is 115 minutes, aspect ratio is 239:1, and the audio is in Dolby ATMOS. Before we take a look at the audio and see how active this mix is, if you don't know what the ATMOS viewer is, you can find a link down below in this video's description that tells you all about it, what it does, and where to get it. You can also find a list of all the gear that I use for these 4K reviews down there as well. Jumping into the ATMOS viewer, we can see that this is mostly a static 11-channel mix. I say mostly because there are times where all 18 of my speakers do become active, but I'd say about 95% of the time, it's 100% an 11-channel static mix. So if you are running 6 height channels, the top middle speakers will get the most usage. Therefore, it might be best to go with a 4 top channel setup for this movie. So make yourself a 4 top channel preset if you haven't already. With that said, this follows the same audio quality as the previous movie. It's got plenty of lower channel ambiance during the non-action scenes, notably when New York is covered in snow. You'll hear the wind and other atmospherics surrounding you from all directions, and despite there not being a lot of objects floating around in space, almost all of my channels are lit up and doing something. At 2737, when Ghost Girl vanishes, you can hear her move from the right side of the room, then swirl over to the left side of the room until she disappears. It's a cool, subtle effect, and one that you can see actually track in the ATMOS viewer. There's a few other standout moments coming at an hour 2 minutes in when the possessor escapes the library. This is where we get some really good panning through the lower channels with plenty of overhead activity along with the booming score. Now there are some scenes with big action where only the top middle speakers are active, where you would actually think that there would be more activity going on up top, like the car chase through the city at the beginning of the movie, but it's only 2 speakers doing the work. And this happens quite a bit with these big scale action moments. And then there'd be a 10-second shot of Ray pulling out of the driveway where all the speakers would come alive. So the ATMOS height effects can be hit and miss in this if you're using 6 top channels. As for bass response, this mix bumps. At 38 minutes when the power is about to go out, there's a massive amount of bass that actually had me reaching for the remote control because I didn't want another visit from the neighbor. There's a ton of deep bass LFE action in this mix, so you won't be disappointed. And the dialogue always remained easy to hear throughout. And thanks to Kaleidoscape for supplying me with this copy of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire so I could bring you, the home theater movie loving community, this 4K review. If you're interested in getting your movies a month earlier than physical discs, you can get a Kaleidoscape at our channel partner, Dream Media. Links can be found in this video's description. As mentioned earlier, this visually looks the same as the previous movie. It's close to being 4K crispy, but comes up a tiny bit shy because there is a touch of softness to it. There is no film grain added to it, so it's got a clean, sharp digital look. Now, despite not being razor 4K sharp, it's still easy to pick out the tiny minutiae in the image. Fine details like pores and wrinkles look fantastic, as well as all the details found throughout the sets, such as everything going on in the background in the firehouse. The CG effects were all clean and didn't really stand out from the live-action elements, and was equally as detailed as anything real in the movie. Even the big bad guy looked real in a few shots. As for the HDR, it's got a max CLL of 878 and a max FALL of 173, so the overall picture brightness is a little dimmer than Ghostbusters Afterlife. This dimmer output also keeps the black levels in contrast from truly making the image pop, so I found the blacks to come across kind of flat at times. This is one of those movies where I've got to boost the gamma up just a little bit to brighten up the image. It's got a natural color palette, so no HDR craziness going on in that department, and the specular highlights never really got intensely bright, so the peak highlights did remain detailed without anything being blown out. Overall, this is a fine looking transfer with tons of 4K detail, although I found the image to lean on the dimmer end of the brightness spectrum. But if you do want to deviate from your professionally calibrated display and turn up the contrast enhancer, you can really bring some life to the image. I'm going to go with an 8.6 for video. For audio, this is another great sounding Sony mix. If you want maximum immersion, I'd go with a 4 height channel setup, otherwise only the top middle row will get used the most. That's if you're using a height channel setup with 6 speakers. Soundstage was wide and really detailed, and the bass response was fantastic. I'm going to go with a 9.3 for audio. So what are your thoughts on Ghostbusters Frozen Empire on 4K? Leave your comment down below and let me know. Now, if you do want to pick up this movie, I'll leave some links right down below in this video's description. As always, guys, thanks for watching. If you want, you can follow us on social media. And if you want to support the channel and get exclusive content or great discounts on audio and video gear, then stop by our Patreon page. Be sure to like this video if you found it useful and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you again in the next video.